Hello everyone, this is ThePandaPhotographer and I'll get with you in a moment. I just want to make sure the live stream is actually streaming properly at its 1080p resolution like it's supposed to, because YouTube has been doing some very bad behavior recently. Did you know they're actually targeting your thumbnails now? So before we start, because this video is about how I process the HDR photos, and let me explain how I do it so you guys have a stepping stone to how to do it if you want to do it in this fashion, this way, how I do it. This is my own little style. So as a photographer, I'm just artistic with my photos. So mind you, I want to make sure that it's streaming the 1080p like it's supposed to, and it is. Wow, I am so surprised. No, it's actually streaming in 720p. That's strange. That is really strange. My bitrate is at 3500. What's up, YouTube? Why are you bottlenecking my live stream? But with that said, everyone, so just to let you guys know, I took the camera out and the lens out. So in these photos that I'm going to show you, I am using the Sigma 18-35. Now keep in mind, when you use it at f16, f13, f14, diffraction starts to kick in. So, but with that said, you won't even notice the diffraction in the photos because you guys didn't even see it when I post them. Now, these photos were taken a while back, but I just wanted to emphasize something. None of you pointed out diffraction. Not on Instagram, not on Facebook, not on Tumblr, not on Twitter. None of you reported diffraction issues. Even the professional photographer, which I'm not going to say their names, said it was a gorgeous image. But I want to make sure that I can see your lives, your chats. So give me 1 second here. Let me pop up the chat box. I'm gonna pop the chat box open. There we go. And let's minimize that. Let's minimize that. And gonna just have the chat box open, like right there. That looks good. So now I can see your chats. But I wanted to have a couple of you guys come into the live stream first before we get started. And I also want to talk about the Sony. Let me talk about the Sony. Let's talk about the Sony. Let's see here. A6400 and my opinions on this camera before we start, so we have a good grasp of why the A6400 is just a camera for dummies before the A7000 is released. And let me tell you why. The new tracking system that they actually implemented in the A6400 and all the updates for the A9 and the A73 and the upcoming cameras, it's just a test. Because I'm pretty sure by the time the A6000 comes out, the tracking feature, the new tracking, live tracking, real-time tracking is going to improve by far, which is going to hurt Canon, which Canon's stock market is going to plumb once this software comes out and everyone gets their hands on it, on the A6400 or the newer cameras, and they update with the firmware. It's going to be so amazing. Now, I'm not a Sony fanboy, but for what I have seen and what everyone is demonstrating, it is a promising new feature in cameras that we needed in the Sony. Sony should have implemented this a long time ago, but I guess they wanted to wait a little bit. They've been probably working on it for quite some time. So, with that said, I think A6400 is an okay camera for photography wise, but for vloggers, I don't think it's a logging camera, in my opinion, because as a logger, I'm going to tell you right now, Sony, I want stabilization in my sensor. let's be honest. I need the stabilization. I don't want to go in post-processing and have to stabilize my footage all the time. That's more work that I have to do. And if you wouldn't have just added some stabilization into the sensor, oh my goodness. Even though it's a A6300 sensor, because they're using the same sensor as the A6300, I think it's still a very good camera for photography wise, but for videos, yes, it's good if you put it on a gimbal. Keep in mind, you put this on a gimbal, you're golden. But if you don't put it on a gimbal, you're gonna have to stabilize all your footage, which means you're gonna have to crop your footage, which you don't want to really do that, do you? Do you really want to do that in post? But I don't know, I digress. But I still think it's a great camera overall. I think the real-time tracking is just amazing. To have that feature in real time to track your subjects even when they walk towards you or back, it does show that it has very great potential. But I still am skeptical how good it is in the real world, and I think someone should put it into an extreme test, which you have seen with skateboards, snowboarding, all that stuff in San Diego at the Sony event. But I just think that Sony left out a lot of people in Australia and Japan to test out this new camera, and for Sony just to give out this camera to certain YouTubers, loggers, by the way, which they're fanboys of Apple, I just think that was not a great move. Let photographers and videographers tell you real opinions how to actually make the camera better for next time, or we might see that in the A6000 or Panda rumor, A7300. I didn't say it, but with that said, everyone. But yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that. But yeah, just get started right now. So just want to pop this up really quickly. Let's pop this up really quick. I just want to make sure that I see your chats. Alright, so HDR images. How do I process them? Now, there are a few ways to process HDR photos, but my technique is all through Lightroom and Nik Collection, not a touch of Photoshop. And you guys might be wondering, why don't you use Photoshop? Well, I do when I have to touch up a professional portrait or a high-end client. But these are photos of mine that I will be doing an art gallery over time. So I decided, yes, go back to some of the photos that I have taken in the past, and yes, just work on these. So, or in current future. But with that said, still, once again, I used the Sigma 18-35. Now, this is not a weather seal lens, or it's not weather seal at all, actually. But I was here last winter, and I was here this winter, and before the camera died, I took some gorgeous pictures. Now, keep in mind that these images are from this lens. Now, I shot this at f/14, and I'm going to show you what happens. I want you guys to see the image before I process it. Oh. Instagram is booming. I'm getting a lot of followers now. But anyway, this is the image before I process it. And you guys might be saying, why did you underexpose it? I didn't. It's just the A77, which is right here. It's a SLT camera. So what happens with that translucent mirror that's in front of it, I lose a stop of light. So I decided that I wasn't going to even recover this photo. I'm just going to keep it. Maybe I'll get to it at some point. And then I decided, yes, try to salvage this image as much as possible. Now look how dark it is. Just look how dark. Look how much loss of detail that is. It's a lot of loss of detail. Mind you, it's just, would you want to actually recover this photo? Or would you rather be artistic with the photo and try to salvage it and make it look like something amazing? And that's what I decided to do. I decided to just make this image pop. So the process was that before you guys do anything to the image, now keep in mind, if you shoot this at 18 mil or 20 mil, mind you, before you do anything to your image, make sure you put on the lens correction, remove chromatic aberrations, and also right on the bottom it says transform. You see that auto button right there for the upright? Watch what happens. You see that? Did you see that little shift? It straightens out your photo and there's no distortion whatsoever. So it gets rid of the distortion, it sets you upright correctly. So do that before you actually process your photos, because if you don't, and don't be a lazy ass, mind you, sorry for the language YouTube, but this is being realistic here. In the real world, we have to emphasize to photographers to not be lazy when it comes out to editing photos. And I also do color adjustment and temperature adjustment based on the photo. I also use curves, and I also mess with the hue, saturation, and luminance. And you guys want to know why. But here's my secret trick. In the camera, I am not using sRGB. I am using Adobe RGB. And you guys might be saying, but why? Most people use sRGB. The reason why Adobe RGB is I want those Adobe colors, and if I ever want to print these to do another gallery expedition, I want to frame them and I want them to pop. I want those colors to pop if I want to print them out on nice little scales. I'm not talking about large prints, even though I can do large prints on Adobe RGB, but I choose to do Adobe RGB instead of sRGB. So maybe that's a tip for you, maybe that's not a tip for you. But with that said, that's how I actually do my little dirty little secret in colors. And I mess with the hue, and I mess with the saturation, and I mess with the lumens. And I get this image. Now, this image was processed through Lightroom, the Nick collection. And it's an HDR photo. But I wanted it to be more like an HDR painting. And I had this weird idea in my head. So keep in mind, as a photographer, when I edit photos, you gotta step outside that box. You have to think outside that box. You have to be artistic. You gotta be more, what I'm looking for, creative. And I decided to do that. But if we take a good closer look here, you can see there's a lot of grain, 1:1. That's if you're a pixel peeper. Okay, if you're a pixel peeper, but some people might not care for it because it is kind of like a painting. I want it to be more like a painting style HDR, not a HDR, because I'm going to show you another image what makes it different from the other images of HDR painting from an HDR photo. But with that said, if you guys like what you're hearing, I really do appreciate if you guys support the channel. Subscribe, like, and share. If you guys want to help support the channel, I got a PayPal donation link down in the description below. It does really help me out as a travel photographer. But I really want to emphasize this image, why this image is going to be different from all the rest of the images, because all the other images that you have seen here are taken in Madison, Wisconsin. And I don't actually show a lot of Madison, Wisconsin photos, but I decided let me just add it to my portfolio and show a little bit more Madison, because a lot of people are saying that I'm showing too much Japan, too much London, too much Paris, too much New York, too much of like California, too much in Portland, too much of Vancouver, especially on my Instagram. People could just complain. And I feel like, let me just rub it in Madison's face. Here is a real HDR image that's been processed. And as you can see, it's different. You can see how there's less grain noise. Absolutely clean, in my opinion. Very clean. And you can see that this was taken at 2.5 seconds long exposure, by the way, f11, which diffraction is not really having an effect on this image. In the beginning of this video, I did talk about diffraction, so be careful when you step down or step up to f11 F14, F16, or even F22 in some cases. Now, you can see where it is sharp detail. Colors are vibrant, colors are popping. Now, right now on Facebook and Instagram, this photo is being loved so much. I wasn't expecting the image to be liked so much. I just wanted to show my art, show my artistic side of my photography as a child photographer, and also as the panda photographer. Oh yeah. And I just want to show a little bit of love to the people that are really true to who they are in Madison. For the rest of the other Madison greedy monkeys, eat a bag of dicks. But with that said, yeah, so this was taken, what is it, East Johnson and State Street, and right in front of the nudist spot. Now look at the red color. Just show you the red colors. I want to show you this image before I show you the before. Look at how it pops. You see that streak of light? You see that subtle streak? You see the subtle streak there? I like the subtle streak. Now I did use a Zomei ND 400 vertical ND filter. Now I'm not sponsored by them, but I do have them on my Instagram. I do talk to them and let them know the best ND filter I ever use, even though there's a slight color shift, but I always fix it in post. So if any other photographer says you're wasting your time on ND filters, actually you're not wasting your time on ND filters. It helps stop some unwanted light, especially in this photo. Let me show you why. Look at that. Now if I didn't have that Zomei ND filter, I'm going to tell you right now, if I didn't have it, this photo would have been truly overexposed. I'm sure of it. Like I said, guys, I always mess with the hue, I always mess with the saturation, I always mess with the nuance in colors. Now, I train my eye very well to establish colors, and you should do too. Mind you, I wear glasses and I wear contacts. I trained my eye for years to understand color. It's important for you to understand the colors. Now, you see that how that red in that building looks now compared to what it looked like after? Look at it, it's vibrant, it's popping, it's great. Because that's what I saw in my eyes on the street. If I was to live stream you guys, walk down State Street, you can say you got the colors on that building, on the bricks, exactly the way we saw it in the live stream. You'll be surprised, right? But this photo doesn't do it justice because it's a raw photo. Keep in mind, I always shoot raw because I want to control everything I do in post. Now you can shoot JPEG, but you're not going to be able to control everything in JPEG. And here's the reasons why. You're not going to be able to fix a lot of things with JPEGs. You can try to fix some things in JPEG, but you're not going to be able to fix everything in JPEG. So with that said, let's go back to RAW. So as you can see, you see the streak of light. You see how right here in this area right here, it seems a little bit like you don't see the streak. Pay attention to. Let me just do one of these here. Just want you guys to see before and after. Now the after is on my right side. I'm with my right hand is shaking right now, and the before, I mean the after is on my right, and the before is on my left. Now keep in mind that if you look at them closely, you see the greens pop. You see how I mess with the greens, mess with the blues. Now, keep in mind that you may want to do something different to this image in HDR compared to mine's. But I want to show you something very closely. In this image, I noticed that I had a lot of spots, and I had to remove those spots. So what I like to do is take this, oops, let me just go back to this image. Do spot removal. Now, keep in mind, let me show you a little trick into moving spots that you cannot see right now, because right now you just have it on spot remover, and the visualization spot is only showing you some spots up here, right? It's only showing you some spots, right? But if I was to go down 50%, yes, do radius 1.1, yes, do details 30, like I did before, and watch what happens. I'm gonna press the alternate key on my keyboard. on my laptop, and I'm going to kind of like, oh, let me get out of here first. So when you do the sharpening, you can see more spots. As you can see, do you see the spots on the top of the screen display up here? Do you see it? Now, if I just do this, you see how there's more spots that you didn't see before when you do the visualization spot? Now you can remove those spots in this process. After you finish touching up, you can go back into the sharpening and remove more spots. So keep in mind that even though you may think the spots are gone, use the sharpening tool to actually and do one-to-one to look at the spots carefully, because this is the results. And let's do one-to-one. Let me show you. You're gonna do right about there. Now if I was to move around, let's do the fill. You see those spots? Now those are unwanted spots from the salt and from the snow. That's not from the sensor, I don't believe, because if I remember taking this picture, was it December or something of 2008, before the camera freaking died, I believe that this came from me cleaning off the UV filter. Now keep in mind, I also recommend putting a UV piece of glass in front of your element. Why? Because you don't want to dirty that element on your lens. Particularly, you want to dirty this piece of glass and clean it all the time. So please, I digress on this one right now. Please do put one of these, and this is a Zomei also UV filter, which I really don't need it. I just use it to protect my element, but also to block out any dirt or lint or snow or salt when cars are passing by, because that's what happened. The cars was passing by and the lint and dirt got onto the lens. So I just wanted to talk about that. But let's go back into here. But this is the image I processed after, and you can see there's a lot of more detail in the ground here. You can see the salt, you can see the snow, you can see the tracks where the vehicles are coming by. And this was a perfect shot too, because I didn't want some of the traffic going both ways, because I just feel like that doesn't bring a direction to where I'm photographing. Because I saw this on the ground and I was like, that looks like an interesting photo. If I can remember, I believe when I was actually taking this photo, I was like, that looks interesting. That there's no vehicle tire tracks going the opposite way down State Street, because the only vehicles are allowed on State Street are buses or professional police or fire truck or delivery service. But no cars are not allowed on State Street. So this is a perfect opportunity. And it was very early in the morning too. It was like 6:30, something like that in the morning, something like that. But yeah. And this image, same thing with this image. Got rid of the spots, did an HDR look, but I did a little different to this photo. I added a little glow, golden soft glow to this, because I really like the yellow to pop. And as you can see, it is totally vibrant. Colors are popping, colors are vivid. It gives, like I told you guys, in camera, I'm using Adobe RGB. You may want to use sRGB. Wow, that's a mouthful. I can tell you. But I'm going to show you the before. Look at that. That's a before image. Look at that. And just to let you guys see how sharp it is. This is shot at f13. F13, 1 second, 18mm ISO 50. And you can see where that 1 second trail light, right when the car was stopped at the red light. Was it stopped at the red light? Yeah, I think it was stopped at the red light. And I was like, okay, I'll wait till it goes and then hit my shutter speed. I mean my shutter remote. So I am using a shutter remote without camera shake. So this is on State Street in Gorham. And you can see like how they pay attention to the greens. pay attention to the reds on the bricks or burgundy, pay attention to the grays, pay attention to the blue sky, and this is the image after. Now I'm gonna zoom in again so you guys can see the difference. Now this is an HDR photo, and you can see the greens are popping a little bit more vivid. Now the bricks are more vivid, more brighter, more saturated, which most photographers would say it's more saturated. But if you guys want to know what's the light source I'm using for my face, I'm using that Pateron H198C. It's one light, and I have it between, I don't know what kind of camera temperature I have it, but it should be about 4200, 4500. But it's really hard because there's no meter that tells you what's the camera temperature. You just gotta guess. But yeah, and look at this. The pink on this building is popping more than what it used to be on the image that was before. If my system will load, come on, load. It's not loading. Oh, there it is. Oops, made a mistake. So guys, please do subscribe, like, and share the content. You guys want to support the channel, there's a PayPal donation link down in the description below. It does really help me out, guys. But I just wanted to show you guys how I process these photos. As I said, guys, I use Nik Collection. Once I'm done editing the photos in Lightroom, then I go to the process of adding detail extractor, some pro contrast, a little bit of glow here and there, maybe. It depends on the image. Now, it varies based on image, so you may not want to use pro contrast, but I definitely sure how I use everything is go to Nik Collection. If you guys don't have Nik Collection, please download it. It's a fun software that adapts to Lightroom and Photoshop. It's useful, so useful. Now, XEO Mark has now licensed it, so you guys have to pay for it, but I have a free copy that I always had in my possession. I know this free copy is somewhere floating around on the internet before DxO started to license it, and they should not license it. They should just release it back to the public because it was a fun tool. Not a lot of people used it, but I used it quite a bit. But in this image, now this image was taken at 1 second as well, but I waited till the bus passed me a little bit right when it hit my lens. Now this is how I determine calculation. So say this is, let me take the lens hood off. So say if I'm pointing it this way, right, and the bus is right there, and when it starts moving this way, and once it try to pass me right here at the tip of my lens, that's when I hit that shutter spot. But it's about speed. The speed counts. So you gotta let the bus get some momentum to get the speed that you need to actually catch this particular image. Now, if you see it in the image, I even caught the number of the bus, which is number 6 bus. That's going to the West Town Mall. So I waited till they hit right there and then hit it and then snap it. 1 second, that's all it takes. But I want you guys to pay attention to this image because this is f16. Diffraction starts to kick in. Let me show you what I mean. In the far corners here, when I started editing this photo, I saw diffraction started to happen. I had to crop this image, by the way. So if you go to my Instagram, ThePandaPhotographer, you can see it's slightly cropped because in the far corners here, there was diffraction. And I'm not sure if the video can actually pick this up, but you can see a little bit of diffraction. You can see here, you can see here, diffraction, ghosting. It's just weird stuff happening. So I had to fix it. Now, it's not easy to fix, and it's not hard to fix. It's right between, I would say, the intermediate editing process. So yeah, it took me longer to fix these images because I really wanted to use this image as much as possible. Now, DJ Hackalot says, awesome, nice tutorial, my friend. Thank you, DJ. I appreciate it. But yeah. So let me show you what diffraction looks like. If it loads, you see right here, diffraction starts to kick in right here in the corner, on the side corners here, for some reason. And you see how it's like ghosting for some reason. The camera's not moving. It's standing still, mind you. Let me explain why it's standing still. Look, it's sharp as hell. So why is there ghosting? Well, that's diffraction starts to kick in, causing this weird effect with the Sigma 18-35. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that the Sigma 18-35x16 is bad. No, I've seen worse lenses have worse diffraction issues. This is minor, in my opinion. Out of all the years I use lenses, this is by far one of the cleanest diffractions I've ever seen on a Sigma 18-35 Art lens. This is why I recommend to pick it up. I'm going to leave some of the Amazon links down in the description below after the live stream is over, so you guys can use my affiliated links on Amazon to pick it up if you want to. I think it's a brilliant lens, and for the lens to survive. Let me turn this down. Now, for the lens, let me make sure that the volume is not too loud. Okay. For the lens to do what it can in the winter, mind you, it's not a weather seal lens. It's not sealed in the back whatsoever. This is an A mount. They have a Nikon, they have a Canon, Pentax, Micro Four Thirds, but it can, like I said, and you ever seen my 3-year review on this lens and my 5-year review? This thing has been to snow, rain, and still an amazing lens. And when I went to Photokina in the summertime, Sigma replaces the rings around my Sigma, cleaned it out for me, made it look like a golden baby. Such a golden baby. This guy right now is like, yeah, this is my baby. It's my baby. I freak people out that way. People don't understand, like, glass like this, when you take amazing images, you just love the purchase. You love that you spend your hard-earned money on something worthwhile. People like that are not photographers, they don't understand that. They don't understand, like, this piece of glass is expensive. It is everything that should be worth every value, every penny of it. So you're going to have to endure your lenses. Yes, I babysit, I do take care of my lenses more than I can take care of my lens bodies, just to be honest. This camera has been through 7,848 actuations. And when it died on, died on December, December 19th? I was devastated. I was kind of upset, but I was like, you lived for too long. I did time-lapse with it, I've done long exposures with it, portraits with it, astral photography with it. It went to China with me, it went to Singapore with me, it went everywhere with me. And out of all the camera bodies that I had that were stolen, this was always in my bag. So yeah, I do like Sony's SLT A-mount glass and bodies. Some of you might not like it, and some of you might have heard recently that Sony says one mount only. Now, Sony is actually going to kill off the A-mount for sure. When they presented that little post they did, saying one mount, a bunch of lenses for E-mount, that's when I knew A-mount is officially dead. But I'm going to keep A-mount alive as long as possible. Because as a real Sony shooter, and I'm not bashing on a lot of E-mount shooters, I'm just saying there's a lot of E-mount shooters right now that only been shooting with Sony for like 2-3 years. And those E-mount shooters, the educators like David Oyster or like what's this Avik Photography, who else, and some other photographers I can't name off the back right now, but they're on my Instagram. What's his face? He's a funny dude from Texas. Oh my god, he's a black guy. I keep forgetting his name. Well, go to his Instagram, 924 Photography. That dude is funny as hell, but he takes some amazing pictures. Oh my god. But anyway, as I was saying before, you can see here on the corners, let's get back to the image. It's sharp. It's clean. Look at the snow. Look at the detail on the snow. Come on. But here is where you see diffraction start to kick in. You see, right here in the corners, it's not too bad, but it's good. I can see a little shift. Right here, I can see that shift because I'm looking at the snow, this plot of snow here. And if I look right here, you can still see it's not too bad, but it just gives me that weird color shift. And right here, you can see, you see this little spot right here? Look at this spot right there. I'm just gonna pause the video so you guys can look at that spot. That's a diffraction that kicked in. I don't know, maybe because the object moved in front of the lens, that's why it's not so bad on one side, but it's bad on one side. But it happened, and this is the end result that I cropped it. I'm gonna show you why I cropped it. You can see where I cropped it. Now, oh, let me not do that. You can see where I cropped. You see? Because let me just go back to the image and show you where that diffraction is bothering me. You see here? Right here in this spot? You see that? I can't get rid of it. I just can't get rid of the diffraction. So I had to crop. And normally I like to full the frame in all my images. Now the images that you all have seen through this Lightroom tutorial episode 9, season 2, you saw that I never crop my images. But this image I had to crop. Whatever I tried to do to salvage this image so much, I spent an hour and like 25 minutes on this image and still was not able to get rid of the diffraction. And I had to crop it. So the best way to crop it was to cut it out the frame. And that's what I had to do. So that was my end result. So yeah. So if you guys like what you see here, please do support the channel, like, subscribe, share the content. It does really help. And I just wanted to emphasize HDR, explain all my HDR images, that my HDR process is through Nik Collection when using the detailed extractor. Now, let me show you how I do that. For some that haven't watched my other previous episodes on how to do the HDR, I'm just going to do it for this image, just for this demonstration purposes. Now, if you guys are wondering what microphone I'm using, ooh, look at that gold tip. This is the newer NW8100. Now, I'm using the Zoom H4n Pro as my phantom power device that's actually giving me the audio, but I'm also using OBS. So let me put the filter back on so you only hit the pop, 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 pop. So, and this is how I do the HDR images. So I can do extreme, I can do a strong, I can do a flat detail, or I can do standard. But with this one, I did a flat detail and then add, like for instance, I went to landscape. That's what I did. And I did auto enhance, but I made some adjustments to the color shift or the color cast. Right about there. Dynamic, right about there. Then what I also did was I came in here and added nutrient density on top of the nutrient density filter that I already had. Now keep in mind, that was my mistake, that I over calculated how much of the density filter that I was using, which is a Zomei density filter. I actually over calculated or under calculated. Yeah, under calculated. I was actually supposed to put it at its max 8 stops, but I didn't. I was at what, 4 stops? It wasn't enough. So what I did was I added a strong nutrient density filter, but I shift I rotate the ND filter in post. You see how it rotates? And then what I did was I just upper blend it slightly so it's not too much. And then I just blend it a little bit. Right about there. And do a vertical shift. But like I said, before you do this in the collection, I mess with the blues, I mess with the hue, saturation, and luminance, so it helps do that process. So you can see where that diffraction right there is just drives me crazy, just drives me nuts. Fuck. I wanted to use this whole image the way it is because I really like the fact that I can capture the whole image, but then again, I'm not really upset about cropping the image. I just don't like cropping my images. I like to full the frame. So if you are a photographer, please try to full the frame and try to get your composition right. And mind you, when I was using this camera, my LCD wasn't working. I wasn't using my newer monitor because that's just too much of a hassle to put it on and put it on. So I was using the EVF. I was like getting on the ground, doing this on the ground, like literally. I was literally on the ground like this, and people were like, "What is he?" It's like, wow, you getting dirty just for a fucking image? Like, yeah. You get dirty, you do the job. It's your job. As a photographer, this is my job. 24/7, 365. This is my job. This is how I get to buy stuff like this. Travel. Buy software, pay for the software updates. Mind you, I gotta pay for this software update pretty soon. So it helps pay the bills. So believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, as a photographer, if you're not a photographer, respect your local photographer. Because you don't know what that person does to get the shot. They have to go do life and limb. This is in very cold temperatures, by the way. It's cold here in Madison. And if I was to use this camera right now, if this camera was working right now, I swear to you right now, I would go outside. It's really, really cold outside. It's like negative like 4 degrees outside. And it's not going to get any warmer. It's going to just get colder tonight. Oh, by the way, to fill the end on some really sad news. Last night, a homeless man passed away due to the weather. So, I don't know his name. It's been talked all around the city right now, and it's a very big concern on how this organization, which I'm not going to mention in this video because I don't want to get sued for discrimination or like what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think. But basically, he got kicked out of the shelter for drinking alcohol apparently, and you know, a lot of people have mental health issues. And when you do that to someone with mental health issues, they feel like no one is there to help them. So the best way they know how to do it is they give up on life. They go do stupid stuff like drinking away their life, and that's what happened. He just drank because he can't go back into the local shelter here. Unfortunately, a lot of people can. If you're not a state resident of the Wisconsin, you can't even get to the shelter. That's just terrible. But anyway, rest his soul that he's in a better place. And the great thing about him passing away was that he died in his sleep. He didn't die in pain and agony. He died in his sleep, and I think that's the best way to go past to go beyond Earth, to pass in your sleep. And you guys might say, why do you think that is the best way to pass on? Because dying in your sleep, you're not being hurt. You're in a peaceful state of mind. So with that said, a moment of silence. This is pause the music for that. I don't even know this guy's name. It's really down. I heard it on a police scanner, and then a lot of people. I just came from the university. People talking about it. It shows you that the city of Madison needs to do something better to help these individuals. For a moment of silence for the homeless man that passed away. So with that said, everyone, thank you for watching. And thank you for tuning in. And thank you for doing that for me at this end of this live stream, for giving a moment of silence for a man that we don't know. We never would know who this man is. But it's unfortunate. So if you're a photographer, videographer, if you see a homeless man out there, you know, in weathers like this, try to provide a blanket, some gloves, some hand warmers, even a hot chocolate, coffee, tea. Try to keep them warm. But with that said, I'm the Panda Photographer. Thank you for watching, everyone. And I will see you guys in the next live stream. Peace.